History is often written in ink, but it is forged in blood and fire. Across the vast timeline of human civilization, certain conflicts stand out not for their glory, but for their sheer, horrifying cost. These are the battles that became meat grinders, consuming lives on an unimaginable scale, leaving scars on the landscape and on our collective memory. Today, we journey back to some of the most brutal and costly battles ever fought, to understand the true price of war. From the frozen ruins of a modern city to the muddy fields of the Great War, and back to the very foundations of the Roman Empire, these stories are a sobering testament to human endurance, sacrifice, and the catastrophic consequences of conflict. Our first stop is a city that became a symbol of total war. In the winter of 1942, the German Sixth Army, the pride of the Wehr, pushed into the heart of the Soviet Union, aiming to capture the city bearing Stalin's name. What followed was not a battle of sweeping maneuvers, but a hellish street by street. The city was pulverized into a labyrinth of rubble and steel. Snipers lurked in shattered factories, and soldiers fought with knives and shovels in the sewers. The average life expectancy of a new Soviet soldier arriving in the city was less than a day. The Germans called it Ratenkrieg, Rat War. As the brutal Russian winter closed in, the tide began to turn. The Soviets launched a massive counteroffensive, Operation Uranus, encircling the entire German Sixth Army. Cut off from supplies, starving and freezing, the once invincible German forces were systematically annihilated. By the time the battle ended in February 1943, the casualties were staggering. Nearly 2 million soldiers and civilians were killed, wounded, or captured. The Battle of Stalingrad not only halted the German advance on the Eastern Front, it shattered the myth of Nazi invincibility and became the psychological turning point of World War II in Europe. The sheer scale of the suffering and the utter desperation of the fighting make it one of the most brutal urban battles in all of history. Let's rewind 25 years to the fields of Flanders during the First World War. Here, in 1917, the Third Battle of Ypres, more infamously known as the Battle of Passchendaele, unfolded. The goal for the British and their allies was to break through German lines and capture a key ridge, but the battle is remembered less for its strategic objectives and more for the nightmarish conditions in which it was fought. The heaviest rains in 30 years turned the battlefield, already obliterated by years of shelling, into a vast, liquid morass of mud. This wasn't just dirt, it was a thick, clinging sludge mixed with human remains, unexploded shells, and poison gas. Men and horses drowned in shell craters filled with water. Artillery guns sank into the mire. Soldiers advancing over the top had to navigate on wooden duckboards, which were constantly shelled. A single misstep could mean sinking into the mud, never to be seen again. For over 3 months, men fought and died in this apocalyptic landscape. The advance was measured in yards, at a cost that is difficult to comprehend. The battle eventually ended with the capture of the ruined village of Passchendaele, but the gains were minimal. The cost was astronomical, with a combined total of over 500,000 casualties. Passchendaele has become a byword for the futility and senseless attrition of trench warfare, a horrific testament to a generation lost in the mud and the endless rain of steel. Now, we travel much further back in time, to 52 BC, to a conflict that would define the fate of an entire people and cement the legacy of one of history's most famous commanders. This is the Battle of Alesia, the decisive engagement of the Gallic Wars. Julius Caesar and his Roman legions had spent years campaigning in Gaul, modern-day France, but a massive revolt, led by the charismatic chieftain Vercingetorix, had united the Gallic tribes against him. After a series of clashes, Vercingetorix retreated with his 80,000 warriors into the fortified hilltop town, or oppidum, of Alesia. Caesar, facing a numerically superior force in a strong defensive position, did something audacious. Instead of a direct assault, he ordered his men to build a massive wall of fortifications completely encircling the town. This 11-mile-long wall, known as a circumvallation, was designed to starve the Gauls into submission. But Caesar knew a massive Gallic relief army was on its way. So he ordered his legions to build a second wall, this one facing outwards, to protect the Romans from the coming attack. This second wall, 13 miles long, was called a contravallation. The Romans were now the besiegers, and the besiegers trapped between two Gallic armies. Soon, the relief force, numbering over 250,000 according to Caesar, arrived. and launched a furious assault on the Roman outer wall, while Vercingetorix's starving warriors attacked from the inside. The Romans were fighting a desperate battle on two fronts. The fighting was savage, a chaotic clash of shield, sword, and spear. Caesar himself rode along the lines, rallying his exhausted men. In a climactic final charge, he led his cavalry to strike the Gallic relief army in the rear, shattering their formation and causing a rout. Seeing his relief force destroyed, Vercingetorix knew the fight was lost. In a dramatic act of surrender, he rode out of Alesia alone and laid his weapons at Caesar's feet. The Battle of Alesia was a masterpiece of military engineering and strategy, but its aftermath was brutal. The Gallic revolt was crushed, and Gaul was brought firmly under Roman control, a process that would shape the future of Europe for centuries. For the Gauls, it was a catastrophe that ended their independence and led to the deaths or enslavement of countless people. Stalingrad, Passchendaele, 3 battles separated by centuries, fought with different weapons on different continents, yet they share a common, tragic thread: an immense human cost that defies easy comprehension. The numbers are so large they become abstract, millions dead, entire generations scarred. Looking at the serene war memorials and the endless rows of white crosses that dot our world today, it's easy to forget the chaos, the terror, and the individual suffering they represent. Each name etched in stone was a person with a family, with hopes and dreams, caught in the maelstrom of history. These battles are not tales of glory to be celebrated. They are solemn reminders of the ultimate price of conflict, cautionary tales written in blood that echo through the ages, urging us to remember the cost and to strive for a world where such sacrifices are no longer necessary. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey through history meaningful, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more.